Hey everyone, welcome back to another CC success story here. I have Parham Al with me. Parham, thank you so much for joining me, man.
Austin, thanks so much for having me, man. It's a pleasure.
You got it. I'm super excited to have you here, and we're going to walk through your journey, going from a job you weren't totally satisfied with, right? And then the ups and downs of the job search to eventually landing a position in sales as a B2B video specialist at Vidyard.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, wanted to thank you for having me on this show. You've been such a great resource to me throughout the whole job hunting process, and it's great to finally be a success story on your show. Honestly, the whole process was like a roller coaster ride. It had a lot of lows and a lot of ups, such as landing this role. It all honestly started with graduating from university and just being very lost as to what I wanted to do. I had some experience with tech scene, doing marketing and sales, but once I graduated, I was very confused as to which kind of path I wanted to go on. Ultimately, I chose sales, but that wasn't enough. The whole job hunting process is such a behemoth, so understanding it was really critical at that point. And I just didn't. I was very desperate for a role just because had recently graduated. So I just aimlessly applied for jobs here and there, went on Angel List, went on LinkedIn, didn't have much connections, just reached out to a couple of connections that I had. Nothing came of it. And finally, I landed the role with Ticketic, which is an event registration platform doing business development for them. Ultimately, my goal with that role was that, okay, well, it's not a company that I'm totally psyched about. It's not my dream job, but I want to achieve tangible results, something that I can truly showcase on my resume, while at the same time educating myself on the job hunting process and what it takes to really land your dream job, which is throughout the process, stumbled upon your content and your stuff. And it really helped me to land this role at Vidyard today.
Awesome, man. And I appreciate you walking us through. So let's take it all the way back here. You mentioned you were in college. What was your major?
I studied international relations, so totally unrelated to tech.
Which is, I feel like, what most people have. They have one thing, and they decide to break into tech, and it's like, all bets are off. That's awesome. So your first job, how'd you end up landing that one? Was it, was it through just applying online, going through the usual channels? Like, tell us a little bit more about that.
My first job in the tech scene, or first job coming out of college?
Let's go first job in tech.
First job in tech was actually just through connections. Like you mentioned, always like through referrals is always the most powerful way to land a role. Started off with an internship at Lazy Meal, which is an online food ordering platform here based in Vancouver. And after 3 months of taking care of their social media, they offered me like a more of a stable marketing role. And then slowly drifted into sales because school started, and like I was in the UBC area, which is the university here in Vancouver. Mm-hmm. So it was more territory based. It was door-to-door sales. So at the time I was like 18, 19, and it really, really helped me get the nose I needed to really get used to the whole sales process. And ultimately I stopped doing that just because school was getting more and more serious. And I hadn't really worked in tech up until Ticketic, which was after graduation.
You graduate, you make your way into tech. Then you have this job at Ticketic. Why did you want to move on? Like, what was the impetus behind that? Were you, was it your boss? Were you just ready for a change, make more money? What was kind of the motivation to start looking for something else?
Great question. Yeah, honestly, I think it was a combination of things. Honestly, when I listen to just people like the thought leaders that I listen to, they always mention how in your 20s, it's the time to really invest in your skills, to really work around people who inspire you, who make you better, who give you constructive feedback for you to really constantly improve and iterate. And I just felt like I wasn't really getting that at Ticketic. It was a smaller company, and they didn't have much experience in the business development role. They didn't have any people who had done it before. So I just felt like I had to reach out externally to other people outside of Ticketic to learn. And I just felt like if I wanted to go from here to here, I wouldn't get there fast enough. So that was really number one. And number two was just real career growth. Like I just felt like the company wasn't offering that as much as I would like to. And the third reason, yes, was salary. The salary, Vancouver is a really, really expensive city. If you come out here, you'll definitely know. In New York too, I mean, like definitely expensive. So I just felt like it just wasn't the one, you know, it wasn't the one for me. And really tried to go after the one for me. And thankfully that really happened recently.
Yeah, man. And so I love this. You're feeling like you're not getting the help you need, the support you need to grow. Obviously salary, the type of work, et cetera. So you think, okay, it's time to expand. So what was the first thing you did? You're ready to look for a new job. You're thinking, you know, it's time to make the next move. What was your immediate next step? Like, did you start applying for jobs online? Did you start hitting people up? How did you initially approach the job search process?
Right. Initially, I think initially it was just looking for jobs on LinkedIn and Angel, and just really applying aimlessly. Again, not having a specific goal or target of like researching the company, being like, okay, well, this is something that I'm passionate about. Let's see who works there, like the researching the people who work there. Like I wasn't doing any of that. So it was just like seeing a job, being like, okay, well, I meet some of the requirements for this job. Let's just apply. I want to improve in the job hunting process. Because I was like, my mentality was like, even if I get an interview, that will still improve my interview process, like the whole phone interview and going through it all. But it just took a lot of my energy, and I felt like I wasn't achieving the results because I wasn't being laser focused on the companies that I wanted to work for. So initially, it was just really aimlessly applying and not getting as much results until I obviously stumbled upon your stuff and learned more about how to go about the job hunting process more strategically.
Awesome. And I mean, you know, I love that. So you found my stuff, you decided, okay, you know, what I'm doing right now isn't working, applying for tons of jobs online, I'm not getting the results I want. How did you shift? Like, you know, after reading some of the material, how'd your strategy shift? What did you start focusing on instead?
To be honest with you, I had the whole referral thing in mind. I always knew that referrals were the most powerful way to land a job, but I just didn't know that you could do that with any company and anyone. So like initially I remember I saw a LinkedIn job posting for a BDR role, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Well, I do know that one of my alumni fraternity brothers work for LinkedIn in the San Francisco office. I'll just reach out to him and just tell him that I'm interested and jump on a Zoom call with him. And I did exactly that. We chatted, and he actually referred me for the position in Toronto. I applied. I didn't get it, but that really opened the possibilities for me. I was like, okay, wow, well, if I can really do that with one person at LinkedIn who works there and he can refer me and I can apply through that, I can do that for any company. So just understanding that the possibilities are endless by tapping into other people working at other companies and interviewing, you know this better than I do, is a two-way street. You want to learn about them as much as they want to learn about you. So it's just an opportunity for you to really understand their challenges and their company's roadmap in a sense, and then you going on about it more strategically.
Yep, for sure. And when you started reaching out to these companies, or these people rather, and you know, you had that realization of, I can really do this anywhere. I just need to pick the company and then find the person, right? So how did you go through that process? Did you keep a spreadsheet of the contacts? Did you reach out to them via email? Like, how did you get in touch with these folks? And what do you think worked the best when it came to actually setting up the conversations with some of these people that you might not have ever met before, not really had a connection with in the past?
Totally. Yeah. So in terms of organization, I had a Trello board, like a job hunting Trello board, and it was super, super helpful. I just wrote down the list of companies I wanted to reach out to, the people who worked at the company. And like, if I was in the shower, I thought of a good question to ask them, I'd be like, oh, let's put it in the Trello board. So everything was there. It was a really, really solid Trello board. Whoever was looking for a job, I'd be happy to share that with them just to see how it kind of looks like. In terms of reaching out to them, I would find just common points of interest on their LinkedIn. So let's say if they were like doing BDR, I would say that, hey, I saw that you have experience in this field. I'm really interested in learning more. The subject line would be like looking for advice from the best. That was kind of my way of reaching out to them and grabbing their attention. And then, yeah, I would be like, if you have 15 minutes, I'd love to chat with you, kind of similar to the template that you have on CC as well. And usually people were like, I would say 6 out of 10 people were open to chatting. Obviously, you have to fill out that funnel so that in case some people don't reach out, you have other people that you'd like to talk to. And yeah, it was usually just setting up a calendar and then chatting with them whenever the date was set.
Awesome. So it sounds like most of your stuff was done over the phone. Did you do any in person, or was this mostly really like over Skype, over the internet, over the phone?
It was mostly, yeah, over Skype or over the phone. I tried my best to actually get them over Skype because I knew that way I could build rapport with them. Like I would lie to them in some cases, be like, yeah, my phone network is really low. I'd love to just like do a Skype call with you so that we can actually get the one-on-one person and I can learn more about them. But yeah, mostly the majority of them were done over Skype or over phone call.
Awesome. And that's great. So 6 out of 10 people is solid. That's about the similar rate to what I saw. And it's great that you were able to build these over the phone. A big question a lot of people have who hear the strategy is, well, like, do I have to get them in person? Is this possible to do over the phone? And like you saw, it totally is. So I love that. When you did get on the phone calls with these people, what did you talk about? How did you tee up the conversation? How did you start it off? And then how did you work your way into finding out more about challenges, initiatives, some sort of angle or information that you could add value against? What's your strategy?
Really, really great question. Honestly, at first, I think there's just certain principles you have to follow in any conversation. And one of them, the major one of them, is like, just be genuinely curious at what they do. So I always kept that in mind. It's about them. It's not about you. You want to just learn about their challenges and what they're working on. So like usually the first 5 minutes of the conversation just consisted of small talk, what they're working on, if they have any travel plans. And obviously you bring this up in your email. So you just initiate the conversation. Don't wait for them to bring things up and be proactive about it. I thought that was huge too in interviewing as well. So yeah, the first 5 minutes was just getting to know them and breaking the ice. And then obviously I would delve in and ask them like, so how do you like working there? What's your favorite part about working there? And they would obviously open up the conversation and talk about some of the things they love working on or about the whole company as a whole. And then I would delve deeper. I would ask them questions like, what's the most unexpected lesson you've learned while working there? Or what's the biggest challenge you're currently facing? Another question that I'd like to ask them is like, if this is actually yours too, it's like, what are the critical principles of someone being successful in this role? Like if they were previously in that role. So let's say if they were like a senior business development, I would ask them like, if you were when you got hired in the BDR role, if you could go back, for instance, what would you do differently? I just wanted to learn more about the role itself and have them talk about themselves and their experience.
Awesome.
But going back to just being genuinely curious, I think that's huge.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the best pieces of advice anybody can get out there, because I also get a lot of feedback that networking sucks. It's fake. Like everybody knows why we're having this conversation. I just want a job and they can give me a job. So that's the only reason I'm talking to you, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, like, if you approach it that way, that's how you're going to come off, right? You're going to come off as somebody who like doesn't really want to be there, isn't super invested in this. And if you think about it more like, this person's doing really cool things. Like, I want a job at their company. They have a job at their company. That's pretty cool. So how can I learn more about them? And also how can I add value against exactly like what they're doing? How can I help them achieve the goals they mentioned or overcome the challenges? And if you take that mindset and bring it into any of these conversations, like I like to think about it personally as building a friend. Like I'm still friends or connected with a lot of the people that I met through this process. And I've just continued to build those relationships, and they've come in handy, maybe not for me directly because I haven't looked for a job since, but a lot of other people in the community. And so these relationships are going to benefit you for the long term. So if you're thinking about it just like, hey, I need to have this conversation so I can get a job and then I'll never talk to this person again, it's not going to work because your head's not in the right place. You're not focused on the right stuff. So I love what you mentioned there. Next, after you got go ahead.
No, totally. I agree. I think it's just coming from a place of abundance and understanding that, hey, if this conversation doesn't even land to a job, I'm still gaining a friend. I'm still finding a friend, and I'm still learning something new about a company that I would like to potentially work for, and about this person who's working on so many cool stuff. So I think just approaching the conversation from a human perspective, just like a normal conversation you would have with one of your friends, is the most valuable thing that I learned. And just making it conversational. Don't make it too serious. It's always good to go on tangent sometimes too, just to have that creative flow in the conversation as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the warm up period is great too. Like, you don't necessarily dive right into it. You're not reading off a script. Like, you talk about them, talk about what they did that weekend, or, upcoming plans, or just the casual stuff that kind of brings down that like professional rigid barrier and allows you to have like more of a personal conversation, more casual. I love that. So after you spoke to these people, after you got that information around challenges, goals, etc., what did you do next? Like, did you go out and actually build some projects, or like, did you send an email and offer them some solutions? Like, what were the next steps after some of these conversations?
Yeah, you mentioned that in your blog as well. I found that it wasn't, in some cases, it really wasn't applicable. Like, their challenges were very, very specific, and I didn't have much info on it to be offering like potential solutions and pulling the consultant card. In some cases, like for instance, I remember applying for a role at Shopify, not applying, actually speaking to someone who was working there, and he referred me. He was just like, yeah, man, if you want, I can just like send you a link and just apply through the role, through the link that I send you. And that was just a conversation we were having. And in the end of it, I didn't ask for it. I just told him that, hey, there's a role posted. I'm really interested. And that was like why I called, to just learn more about you and the company as a whole. And he offered to send me the link, and I applied through that. So sometimes it worked out that way. Other times they didn't do that. I just learned more about the company and what they were doing and the challenges that the whole team was facing. In those cases, it really helped, because when I applied for the role, for instance, when I applied for Flex Sports, I know we actually had a conversation back in January, December, about Flex Sport 2, which I also got rejected for. I remember going into the interview, I just had information about some of the challenges the company was facing, and just more in-depth knowledge about the role, just because I had spoken to like a sales analyst beforehand. So that really helped. But in cases of like adding value to the challenge, I think it just has to be you have to have a good understanding of the challenge in order to offer value.
Definitely. And the next step that you took is great too. So if, you're not always going to get exactly what you need from the person that you speak to, so you have to do your own research. And what did that look like for you? Like, what specific tools or resources or processes did you use to go ahead and research some of these companies?
Just learning about the company, I think on Crunchbase, on Angel, talking to people, I think was the most valuable. Like, I remember when I applied for the role at Flexport, I was in San Francisco. I practiced all the questions. Like, I knew off the top of my head. I remember you specifically told me to space the responses so that it goes into your long-term memory. So I had most of the questions that I knew they were going to ask me, even though they asked a lot of other behavioral questions that totally threw me off guard, but still really valuable to have those as well. But I remember being in San Francisco and literally standing downstairs at the office, waiting for people to walk out from the Flexport office, and just like initiating conversation. Like, I saw someone with a Flexport bag, and I approached them. I'm like, hey, like, I realized you have this bag. I'm really interested in like learning about the company. And like, we had a 10-minute conversation, and I learned something new about the company's like challenges. Like, what would they say would be like the thing that's preventing them from taking it from like where they are to someplace a lot higher. So I think people are the most valuable. There's only so much you can find on the website, and obviously like announcements sometimes on the news could be valuable as well. So if I were to break it down, I would say company website, people most importantly, and then just like other articles on the web.
I love that you sat outside the office and chased people down. That's like true hustle right there.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, that's that's stepping out of your comfort zone for sure. And it's sweet. So for Vidyard, what of these steps that you've laid out for us led to the job there? Like, I assume that you reached out to people there. And did you like research the company? How'd you get the interview? Was it through a referral? Just take us through that real quick.
Totally. So with Vidyard, so like I said, I came back from San Francisco. I had applied for Flexport, which was a company I was also really passionate about, but got rejected from. But after that, I felt like I had nothing to lose anymore. I was like, okay, well, I tried so hard for this interview and it didn't work out, but I have nothing else to lose. Like, I feel like I'm at my lowest low right now, but there's the only way right now is going up. So the job for the BDR role at Vidyard came up, and I hadn't heard about Vidyard before, but I had done my research on the company once I heard about the role. And the first thing I actually did was just reach out to someone who was in a BDR role in the Vancouver office. They're an Ontario-based company, but they have recently expanded their office to Vancouver. And I just found the product and everything really, really interesting. So the first thing I did was reach out to someone in the BDR role, and I set up a call with them. And like I said, we just had a conversation, very, very casual at first, and then jumped into just some of the challenges she's facing in the role, what she loves about working there, what she doesn't like about working there, just like questions that I thought would be valuable to me throughout the whole interview process. And I had actually reached out to the BDR manager as well, but since I applied for the role, she canceled our meeting because we were going to have an interview face to face. So that was interesting to see how people are so willing to have meetings with you, but obviously once the interview was set, it was just better to have it face to face rather than on the phone.
Yeah, totally. That's awesome. So following the same process, reaching out, getting in touch with people. I totally agree that the people first approach is the way to go. And that can happen, right? Like somebody's into having the interview with you, but then, or the like the informational, but then you actually get the interview. Totally. And then then it turns into like a conflict of interest. So they have to bounce back. But no, that's awesome. And so how did the interview process go for you? Like, what did you do to prepare? And was there anything that threw you for a loop? Like, did they make you do a presentation or like a case study or anything like that?
Right. So when I learned my lesson, and they say everything happens for a reason. I remember applying for Flexport, and even though I had my responses down, I felt like one part of the process that I was lacking was the case study. Like, I just wasn't very great at the case study at Flexport, and it was done on the spot. And it was challenging. It was really challenging. And I felt like that was one of the reasons why they didn't hire me, besides the fact that I was Canadian and it was like a role in the States. That was also like another reason. But this specific time, they sent the case study information beforehand. And I remember talking to the recruiting manager, like on, let's say, Tuesday. I think it was actually Wednesday, and then having the interview like Thursday morning. So it was like 1 day difference. So I remember she sent in the case study, and since it's a video platform, the case study was basically how would you reach out to a client? How would you reach out to potential clients, like a prospect? Like basically draft the email and send it to us. And since it was a video platform, I thought that the best way to go on about this was actually create a video. Like use their own software to create a video and attach it in the email. So just really, again, going back to understanding the context, understanding of their product, having a good understanding of what they do, so that you can really frame your email and everything to that's specific to them. So I did that, and I identified another company that I would potentially reach out to. It was actually Flexport, funny story. And that was when I went into the interview. They mentioned that it was really great because first of all, it was a software company, like a B2B company that is kind of their buyer persona. And also I created a video that really matches well with the way their own BDRs reach out to prospects.
Awesome. Sweet. I love it. So you get to the final round, they extend the offer. Did you negotiate salary at all, or did you just accept what they gave you?
I did negotiate salary, but they mentioned that they had recently upped the salary, so they weren't willing to extend it. And I just felt like there were so many other benefits coming with it. Like we have free lunches 3 times a week, and there's several tiers to the whole BDR process that you can like increase your salary in a matter of 3 months, like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. And I thought that, hey, I mean, I will go in there, show tangible results, and I've obviously communicated that I want to be a top performing BDR of the company and I want to grow as fast as possible. So I think it's just a matter of time until I up my salary.
Awesome. I love it. I love that you try to negotiate though, because most people just don't mention it at all, don't bring it up. There's some great statistics behind it. Like if you don't negotiate at all, people who do that miss out on an average of like 16 grand a year. So if you're willing to have the conversation, that's what's on the table. And only about 15% of people who negotiate actually get nothing. 25% get more than they expected. So just some stats for the people listening. But I absolutely love this. And dude, thanks so much for sharing your journey. Like this is
absolutely
really great for everybody out there who's trying to figure out, you know, what steps should I take next, especially around like where should I allocate my time. And I think we both agree that talking to people, reaching out to people is like where it's at. So wrapping up here, what's your number one piece of advice for people who are out there in the job search and, you know, trying to make it happen, trying to replicate the same results that you recently saw?
Oof. Honestly, I think you have to constantly put yourself in their shoes, in the hiring manager, sales manager's shoes. Like if you were the hiring manager, sales manager, how would you go on about choosing the best candidate? Because I remember just recently when I sat down with my BDR manager, I asked her why did you hire me, or what did you see in me that you hired me? And she said, you just really, really wanted it. You were really hungry and you really wanted it. And you showed that through your case study. And like I sent a thank you email. I remember she gave me some feedback about the email that I created for my case study. And she said, it's too long. So when I followed up with an email, I said, hey, thank you. I really enjoyed our conversation. And I took your feedback into consideration. And this is a revised case study. And then in the end, I answered like, P.S., the restaurant you mentioned, I check out some of the Yelp photos, loved it, would love to go visit. Just like a really personal touch to our conversation that brought it back to, hey, I'm human. So honestly, I think it's constantly just looking things through their own lens and seeing how you can constantly add value to them. That's one of the biggest thing I learned.
Sweet. And it goes back to what you said, right? It's about them, not you. And when you start taking that approach, start taking that mindset, that's where you're really going to see tons of results. So Parham, thank you so much, man, for stopping by. I really appreciate it, for sharing all the knowledge. And we will talk to you soon. Take care.
Would love to. Have a great one, Austin. Thanks for having me on the show, man.
No problem. Later.